Welcome back to Links 24. I'm here with Tomah Hospital Community Health Educator Whitney Sanjari, who's bringing us a special two-part holiday edition of her monthly Healthcheck segment. And this month, Whitney is focusing on surviving the holidays, offering tips on how to cope when grief or stress make December a difficult time of the year. And Whitney, people don't really think that at the holiday season, why would somebody have stress other than trying to get all the gifts wrapped,
right,
or suffering from grief, because it's supposed to be a happy time of the year, but that's not the case for people, is it?
Right, not for everyone. The holidays can actually magnify feelings of loss or grief because, typically it's time when your family gets together and you usually have a lot of traditions around that. So if a loved one is gone, sometimes that can really, can be really difficult with them not in the picture anymore. So some of those things, a couple of things to think about here is recognize uniqueness of grief. So everybody grieves differently, right? Now, when my grandma passed away 5 years ago, December 21st, which was very close to the Christmas holiday. So sometimes families will maintain traditions as part of the grieving process. And for us, these were my grandma's cookies. She made them every year, and we would eat them all and get sick the first day that they came.
Yeah.
So to remember her, my family, every year we make grandma's special cookies. That was a tradition that we kept to remember her. Another thing, sometimes families, instead of maintaining the normal traditions, when they're dealing with that grief, they completely change what they're doing, or maybe they change some of the customs. So if you always had Christmas dinner at your house, maybe we do it somewhere else this year, or maybe we don't do a Christmas dinner at all, or maybe we don't really make a big deal around the holidays. Maybe we go to Bermuda or somewhere different. So sometimes people will completely change their traditions, and that's okay too, because again, grief is unique, and it really, however you want to deal with it, okay, it's different for every person. So another thing that you can do is remembering that person. And so a lot of places, some ideas for remembering. Some churches or other areas, you could get a poinsettia or a candle in remembrance of the person, or go to different remembrance ceremonies that often occur around the Christmas time. You could also, some families will save the person's stocking if they had it, and then they'll hang up their stocking, and just as a remembrance of them, they might, put what happened this year that they really want to tell them, or, good memories that they had, or things that they really wanted to say or that they miss about that person. So that's a way to deal with grief as well. I know one of our family friends, one of their loved ones passed away, and he always bought the worst Christmas tree. He picked out the worst one, like the Charlie Brown Christmas. When you go and you trim off the tree, if you cut your own, right, and there's like that stump that's like just terrible. Yeah, that was what he brought home. It's like, this is the tree, everyone. So after he passed away, what they actually did to remember him was they got this like little Charlie Brown Christmas tree, and they took it to his graveside, and that was how they decorated it in remembrance of him. So remembering can also, it can bring up sad memories and tears, and that's okay as well. But sometimes that remembrance is really nice to be able to celebrate their life and remember all the fun things that you loved about them, especially around this time.
And that's one thing too, with, it seems like at the holidays, you talked about the one thing you remember about that person, or one thing about a family get together. I mean, I remember my grandfather who passed away, he always sat in that one chair. And the first Christmas he wasn't there, nobody would sit in that chair. I went and sat in the chair, and it was just like everybody else, just like, whew, somebody finally sat in that chair. So, I mean, it could be stuff that nobody really talks about, but it's the elephant in the room. So it's interesting. Just quickly, when it comes to like fractured families and relationships with families, you always try to put it aside for the holidays. I mean, I know there's not a formula for that, but is there any tips that families should look at for that?
So, I mean, when you're looking at dealing with that kind of stress during the holiday, one I would say is before you have that family get together, get some rest. Right? You need some sleep to deal with Uncle Tim's drama, right?
And put the sharp objects away. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? If you can, right? Hide all the knives from Grandma, right? So in that, definitely get some good rest before you have those interactions. I would say, some people will say, drink all the alcohol you can. I would say limit it, because sometimes alcohol makes us say things that we wouldn't maybe normally say. So I'm not saying don't.
I got to write that down.
Yeah, right. Throw that one out the window, right? But limiting that can help. And then, you know, sometimes it is, if you have an issue with one particular family member, it doesn't always help to bring the drama out when everybody can see, so you have a nice audience going on. Sometimes it might help to kind of pull them aside and be like, listen, buddy. Like,
Yeah. Well, sometimes though, I think people are a little bit more laid back because it is the holidays and they don't want to make that scene. But you're right. You've got to really kind of play it simple. And you got to make sure, especially when kids are involved, don't mess with Christmas when it comes to the kids. Let them have that special time of the year.
Right. And you can always go to another room where there are no children. That's ideal.
Yeah. You know, we're supposed to be talking about good things. We're talking about stressing and grief at the holidays, but
it's part of it.
It is, and you got it. And sometimes I bet you it's very hard in some cases to even see that because some people just don't let it show, and you don't know. Yeah.
Yep. So that kind of brings up support. If you're looking to support someone, some great things you can do: be willing to listen, right? And oftentimes you might hear the same story like 300 times, and that's part of dealing with some of that grief, being willing to listen. Don't avoid them. Sometimes after somebody passes away or a stressful situation, we're kind of like, oh, I'll just stay away from that for a while, and then, you know, tiptoe around it when I'm around them. You know, like don't avoid them. You know, it's okay to talk about it and bring it up, especially with the loss of a loved one. And then that if you need anything, call me. You know, sometimes people don't always know what they need, so it's good to reach out to them and say, hey, you know, maybe you walk through it with them. But as a general rule, when we talk about grief, everybody deals with it differently, and that's okay.
And make sure we eat plenty of sweets. Any sweets. That's right. Well, next week you're going to join me, and we're going to be talking about coming down from the holidays. So
yes.
We'll see you next week. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Well, next week, Whitney will be back with us, focusing on surviving the post-Christmas letdown when Christmas expectations didn't match reality.